I was kind of wondering, you are, did you say second generation American? So I guess the question would be, who was the first family members who came over from Europe?
Here,
Mm-hmm.
like, now are you talking like my grandparents who came from Norway?
Sure.
And they had a daughter that they came with them. I was 9 years old, I think. Now, see, some of this has left me.
Sure.
They came over and brought the daughter, and then they had more children. Now, this is from Norway.
Mm-hmm.
This would have been your dad's parents?
And, okay, that's what I'm trying to think. Seems like that my grandmother maybe was Christina. Does that sound right?
I don't know. I wish I did.
Yeah.
And
Do you remember how many brothers and sisters your dad had?
Okay, I think there were 5 of them. You know, including my dad. It was Uncle Albert, Uncle Elmer, my father, and I guess they had 2 sisters. The one that came over,
Wow.
but she died, and then I think another, Christina.
That died too. Later in life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems to me that we had taken a trip from Fort Wayne when I was a kid, and we were going. And usually every other year we would drive to St. Paul to see. You know, I had a grandmother there, and Aunt Anita, and she had 3 sons, I think it was.
So your cousins.
But they were my cousins, but they were all older than I was.
Yeah.
And so we, where was I? We drove there.
From Fort Wayne.
Yeah, from Fort Wayne. And then we went on up to Canada. Did I mention this?
No.
No?
Okay. Okay, we drove on up to Canada to see my, I had a grandpa there.
Oh.
That's my father's.
So a great grandpa maybe?
No, it was grandpa.
Oh, it was a grandpa. Okay.
And he, I guess, I don't recall my grandmother, so I think but he came back to Fort Wayne and lived with my folks.
Mm.
Did I tell you this before?
Yeah.
I have some pictures of him.
I think I got confused. I always thought it was grandma's dad, but it was grandpa's dad.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, no, I don't. Grandma's
one that
dad
came
was a carpenter. And he built the house. Let's see.
This is
They
grandma
built
now.
one house and left it, because in those days they built another house up against the wall.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so there'd
Like
be no
row-
windows. There'd
Like
be just,
row homes. Kind of like a row home.
It was a double home.
Duplex.
A duplex. A duplex?
Yeah, a duplex.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your dad built a duplex.
Yes.
And half the house was his. This was your mother's father,
Yes.
who was the carpenter.
Uh-huh. So he built that, and Aunt Anita seems. Who was Aunt Anita now? Mother's
Sister?
only older.
Okay. So you were closer to your mother's family than you were to your father's family? Like you
Yes,
you
they
saw
were.
them.
They were up in Canada.
your dad's family was up in Canada.
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Ginger?
No.
And they were the ones that came from Norway then.
Yes.
Okay.
First generation. So Grandpa Wicks, your dad's parents, were first generation on U.S. soil.
Mm-hmm.
They were the first.
Wow.
On where?
Your dad's mom and dad, your dad's parents, were the first ones that moved to the United States
They
from
moved to
Norway.
Canada.
Yeah. Well,
Or
what
was
do you
it-
mean the first ones?
Well, in other words,
Of the family?
yeah, like they were the first generation that moved from Norway to, well, I guess it was Canada. It wasn't even to the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Or was it their parents?
No, I think it was.
It was your dad's parents.
Yeah.
With their daughter, their 9-year-old daughter, and then your dad was born here in the United States.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But I didn't know they lived in Canada.
Oh, didn't you?
I didn't know your dad was from Canada. I always thought he was also from Minnesota.
Well, that's where he grew up, in Minnesota.
Your dad grew up in
moved, yeah.
Minnesota, but he,
Let's see what town, I can't remember.
not St. Paul. That's where your mom was from, right?
Yeah, that's where my mom was from. My grandmom. Yeah.
That's all right,
It
Mom.
used to be so clear in my mind, and
Yeah.
I lose it. But yeah, Dad. I don't know how many there were. 5, I think he had 5. There were 5 children in that family.
In your dad's family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if that included that older one that came with them from Norway, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I
Do you know
probably-
where in Canada they live? Do you remember?
Winnipeg.
Winnipeg. Okay.
Winnipeg.
So I did not know that I had a Canadian grandfather. What did he have?
Your great grandfather.
Great grandfather, yeah.
Mhm.
So
Oh,
that'd be
so
grandpa's
your
dad.
dad was born in the United States. They moved to
Moved
St.
up to Canada.
to Minnesota after they left Winnipeg.
Yes.
Okay.
So they moved to Minnesota just to get to a warmer climate?
Don't ask me. Seems logical, doesn't it? I can't tell you why.
Hmm.
No. One of them was a steam fitter,
Ah,
and I
interesting.
think it was job was available.
Okay. What's a steam fitter?
I can always remember Mother talking about them being a steam fitter. Now I think they put pipes together, I think.
That sounds right.
Sounds logical, doesn't
yeah.
it? Maybe that's always what I thought it was, took for granted.
Yeah. So how did your dad end up in the optical field? Because your dad was an ophthalmologist? No, optometrist.
Yeah,
He was an optometrist.
let's see. In St. Paul. That's where he met my mother.
Was St. Paul.
And he was optical
Optician.
optometrist.
Or an optician?
And they had an opening. They were just starting out, the American Optical Company, and opening offices. And they were opening this one in Fort Wayne.
Hmm.
So his boss evidently came to him and says, how about you go out and go to Fort Wayne and manage that office. So it sounded like a good opportunity for Dad, and he said okay, and he came to my mother, that's my grandfather, I guess. He came to my mother and
Her
said,
father.
yeah,
This was your father. Your
That's-
father went to your mother and said, I remember this story.
do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
How about you come? We get married and you come with me.
How romantic.
And so it was Thanksgiving Eve, the
Ah.
night before Thanksgiving. My grandmother had cooked. Evidently, they cooked a big meal then. That was the custom. So they had their reception. Right? They were married, had their reception, and they left and went to Fort Wayne.
Aw.
And
So within a week he proposed and they got married.
mhm.
Wow.
Wow. I didn't know that part of
They
the
had
story.
they had been dating, I think. Mhm.
Did they meet through church? Do you know? Did they meet through church? Cause were they both Lutheran?
Yeah, oh yes, and yes, you know, that's the
It's the way it was
kind of
done.
with in Norway, the most people are Lutheran,
Yeah.
and
Or free trickers.
so they found that you know they went and I think somewhere I have a picture. They just had a little chapel, you know, church where they worshipped,
Mm.
and in Fort Wayne.
Mm.
Mm.
So then, what else do I want to say? What else do you want to know?
Well, now I'm curious. You want me to?
Oh, go ahead.
I'm curious about Grandma's side of the family, Grandma Wick,
Mm-hmm.
which is Bertha Clara Grauert, right?
Broward.
Yeah. Was she? Were her parents second generation to the United States or first generation? Do you know?
Let's see now.
I think they were second generation.
Yeah, I think so. I think somebody had a farm.
Yeah.
I just remember that farm,
Hmm.
and being told about it. Was that in Minnesota?
Yeah. Well, your mother was from St. Paul,
Yeah.
and your grandfather, you were telling us, was a carpenter and he built houses.
Yes, and he built the house, the twin home, and then he built a big home where my grandmother lived, which I remember, you know,
Ah.
going and staying there and visiting. It was 3 stories high and it was on a hill, so that she did her laundry down in the basement. She just walked out the back door and hung it up, you know, there.
Yeah.
And of course, in those days, that's the only way they got it dry was hang it outside.
Yeah.
You know, it was part of, or else hang it over chairs or whatever
Yeah.
in the house. But so I remember that part about him building that house, and of course, I can remember that we had to sleep upstairs, and it was Alfred's bedtime. He was the youngest, you know.
This was my mom's youngest brother, Alfred.
She made him go up there and go to sleep. And poor kid, he was so scared.
Aww.
Scared of the height?
She was pretty.
So far away.
Oh.
Your mother, you're talking about
She's pretty. What do I want to say? She was.
Stoic.
stoic,
Yes, I think.
didn't show a lot of emotion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like German and
Yeah, there was
Norwegian.
a German in her, I guess. Yeah.
So your mom's parents, your grandparents, were both sides were German. Both your mom's mom and your mom's dad were both.
Yeah,
German.
he came from Germany. Actually, you know, it kept moving around. I think he lived in Russia, you know, Russia was all part
That's
of that.
right. That's right. You told me that
White
last
Russia.
time.
They called it White Russia.
Really?
Hmm
What?
They called it White Russia.
Is that what they call it?
Connected to
Connected to Germany.
yeah. It's what's that and now a good bit of Poland is what used to be White Russia.